the story, we need to go back more than 4,000 years. Most scholars believe Hinduism started in the Indus Valley, close to modern-day Pakistan. Around 1500 BCE, the Indo-Aryan people migrated down to the Indus Valley. Their culture and language blended with the indigenous people living in the region. Over the next 1,000 years, the Vedas were composed. The Vedic period followed another 1,000 years where Hindus began to emphasize the worship of deities like Vishnu and Shiva. Now let's fast forward to the 16th century when the Mughal dynasty takes control in the Indian subcontinent. This was a Muslim dynasty of Mongol origin that ruled from the early 16th to mid-19th century. Not only did the Mughals rule effectively over the course of 2 centuries, but they also attempted to integrate Hindus and Muslims into a united Indian state, not to mention builders of one of the new 7 wonders of the world. Okay, now, let's switch gears a little and talk about imperialism. There was a period of time, if you can believe it, when more powerful industrial nations were forced to gain political and economic control over other areas. During the 19th and 20th centuries, European powers expanded their control over the untapped areas of the world in what is known as New Imperialism. Well, the British arrived and took a small portion of land and formed the British East India Company, which was a company formed to trade with India. The company ended up seizing control of large parts of the Indian subcontinent. Of course, the seizure of the subcontinent did not come without any pushback. This rebellion, also known as the Indian Mutiny, consisted of Indians and Sepoy Muslims rising up against British rule in 1857. Although this rebellion was put down by the British, the events of 1857 have been considered the first outbreak of an independence movement against British rule. Now that we've reviewed some historical background of India, let's talk more about the British rule in the Indian subcontinent. Because the British East India Company could not control India, it was replaced by the British government, referred to as British Raj. The British Raj was intended to increase Indian participation in government, but probably cause a greater national independence movement because one of the Raj's main policies was the idea of divide and rule. Enter Gandhi. He deserves his own history in 5 minutes or less, but here are his stats. Gandhi was born in British-controlled India in 1869. Gandhi became a lawyer and practiced in British-led South Africa. While on a train in South Africa, he was refused entrance into the first-class railway compartment. Even though he had a ticket, he was forcibly removed, thus began his journey as human rights activist. More to come on Gandhi later, but first, we must talk about the Indian National Congress. The Indian National Congress was formed in 1885 and was a driving force of the Indian movement for independence from Great Britain. They would meet to discuss issues that were concerns for the urban and elite Indians. By the early 1900s, some congressmen advocated for self-rule, but there were still many British supporters in the INC. By the 1920s, Gandhi was the party leader and he began advocating nonviolent resistance. Just as the INC was dominated by Hindu Indians and their concerns, members of the Muslim Indian community formed the Muslim League. This group of upper-class Muslims advocated for the establishment of a separate Muslim-majority nation-state. We'll talk more about that in a minute. First, we need to talk about World War I. After Britain declared war on Germany, they brought large numbers of Indian troops overseas. The deal was if Indian troops fight with the Britons, then the British government would gradually increase Indian participation in the British Raj. Well, if you think that happened, you're wrong. After the war, British passed laws that continued to repress Indians. Because the repressive British Raj tightened their grip on the subcontinent after World War I, Gandhi called for a one-day strike throughout the country in early April of 1919. This strike led to violent protests in which many were killed. Eventually, the riots and protests were under control, and a ban on public gatherings was issued. On April 13th, a crowd of 10,000 men, women, and children who were defying the ban on public gatherings were shot upon. This massacre was a major turning point in the Indian independence movement as it fueled anger against the British among the Indian populations. Time to talk about my favorite seasoning, salt. Salt was heavily taxed by the British. Indians were not allowed to make or sell it. One of the acts of civil disobedience organized by Gandhi was called the Salt March. The idea was to get a bunch of followers and march to the sea in order to defy the Salt Act. The 24-day march spanned over 240 miles. Tens of thousands joined Gandhi on his march. Although the Salt March did not produce much immediate progress toward self-rule, its long-term effects could be felt as Martin Luther King Jr. fought for civil rights in the 1960s. Well, guess what? World War happened again, and the British pulled India into the conflict without consulting the Indian representatives in government. In 1942, Gandhi and the INC launched the Quit India movement, which demanded independence for India. Gandhi urged the masses to act as an independent nation, not follow any orders of the British. The Quit India movement eventually died down, but other groups started to rise up against the British. The combination of the Quit India movement, other uprisings, and the drain on resources from World War II eventually led the British to give up control of India. In August 1947, India gained its independence from British rule. Despite Gandhi's desire to keep India together, India was separated into a Hindu-majority India and a Muslim-majority Pakistan. So, That's it. The subcontinent once ruled by Hindu dynasties and Muslim dynasties, once again ruled by Hindus and Muslims. All good, right? Wrong. But that's in another episode. Here's some sources.
Dear students, we have seen a small video. Okay, very good afternoon to you all. And from 6th standard to 8th standard, what all things we studied, the different ages, and starting of Hinduism, then comes the Vedic period, then comes the Delhi Sultanate, Mughal Sultanate, and everything we are Mughal Emperor. Then comes the imperial power of British, like that everything, and up to independence, up to 1947, the Indian Pakistan division plus India and Pakistan independence, up to that thing we have seen in 5 minutes. So the lesson is here, 9th lesson, what we are going to study, the making of the national movement in 1870 to 1947. So the end part of that video we have seen how it happened, and after Gandhiji's time, how was the movement in India, Shipai movement and other things that we already studied in lesson also. Then now comes the Gandhi, means the birth of Gandhi, or before that itself, how it is after 1870 onwards, how India is becoming more or less as a one unit, and how they are fighting against that British, and in 1947 how we are becoming independent, that we are going to see. Then first point of the lesson, we want to see some of the previous chapters points what we studied. First one, British conquest of territories and took over the kingdom. How they are starting, we have seen that one. They was started with Nawab of Bengal, and slowly they are taking power in their hand. Then introduction of new laws and administrative institution for different court, like that things they started, and school system they changed, and they taken the forest law against the tribal people to protect the timber for themselves, like that. Many things we have seen, like that they are starting new laws for their sake, not for the Indian people's sake. The next one, change in the lives of the peasants and tribals. We have seen that one in the lesson. They made the forest law, then they made control over the tribal people, and reserved forest anybody can't enter. Then the peasants, the farmers, they are facing the problem because they was many of them practiced shifting cultivation. Then government said to stop that one, they made laws for that also. The next one, the educational changes in the 19th century, that also we have seen. They started some of the people, those who came from England, they was very much fond of Indian cultural studies, Indian language and other things. Then epics and our Vedas and other things, they started like that schools. Then later some of them came, and no need to teach all these things, and we want people with English knowledge for our office purpose. Then they are changing the school style and starting the English school system here in India. Then debates regarding the condition of women, we have seen that the need of the social reforms and political reforms in India, and Raja Ram Mohan Roy and other members taken the initiative for that. That also we have seen. Then challenges to caste system, and even though it was there in India, and British people, they are using that one divide and rule policy, and they used all the caste and religious groups also. Then we discuss about caste reform movements. Then religious reform movements also we have discussed. Then revolt of the Shipais of 1857, how it reached to started from Meerut, then slowly this reached to other parts of North India and not affected in South India. That also we have seen. Then last one, the decline of the crafts and growth of industry. Slowly the British people, they are bringing industrial things here, and that's why the local people, those who was making the craft items, means the cloth or pottery, everything, it is declining, and the industrial product, machine product getting maximum popularity here in India. That was the lessons what we studied from first lesson to 8th lesson. This is where we are reached in 1970 by all these rules and regulations, all the sufferings of the people and the small rebellions of the people, everything. Now we are reaching to the end part of the independent movement. That is not for 1 year or 2 years, it is near about 60 years we fight against the British people, or more than that, 1857 onwards up to 1947 means we fight against British people for 90 years to get our independence, and we are reaching to the last part of independent war. Then first one, emergence of nationalism. When we had the 1957 war, that time it is not affected the South India. We already said it never affected the South India. So then it is how it is developing the nationalism field here in India, not only in one area, it is all together. That time Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, all together, it was one country. How it developed that nationalism feeling, that we are going to see. Then that is the first point what we want to study. Then a nation in the making, slowly how we are making that feeling of nation. It is my own nation, my nation, like that feeling, how it is developing here in India, that we will see. Then the freedom is our birthright. One of the freedom fighter, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, he is giving that slogan to the people, like that freedom is my birthright. Then how it is affecting the people, or because of the slogan, how people coming together and they are feeling getting the maximum feeling of nationalism, how it is growing, that we will see. Then because of these leaders like Bal Gangadhar Tilak or Lal Lajpat Rai, like that many leaders, they are coming from different parts of India and coming together and working. At the same time, printing and other things, it is developing here in India with the help of British people. So we having newspaper, we having pamphlets or printing machines and other things. So it was very easy to circulate the idea from one area to another area. So it is reaching to the growth of mass nationalism. So we are getting, instead of those who are speaking Malayalam, or those who are speaking Tamil, those who are speaking Bengali, like that division, we are forgetting and coming together, and we are getting the mass feeling of nationalism all together. All Pakistan, Bangladesh and India together, we are getting that feeling of nationalism. Slowly it is developing. For that, those who worked, the advent of Mahatma Gandhi, Gandhiji came and started his work here. First he is visiting all over India. Don't think like that present India, and he went to Bangladesh also, India, present India also, then went to parts of Pakistan also. Like that he is making the feeling of we are one, or he understood the spirit of India and he understood the diversity of India. So he is starting his speeches and other things. Then the Rowlatt Satyagraha, first starting with Rowlatt, that is one of the act made by the British government, that we will discuss when we are coming to the lesson. So they are working against that particular act, Rowlatt Act, against the Rowlatt Act, and it is known as Rowlatt Satyagraha. Then comes the Khilafat agitation and non-cooperation movement. At the end of the First World War, the British people and or his alliance, British people and their alliance become successful. So they are making the new law against the Turkey government, that was the spiritual head of Muslim people. So they are all Muslims together with Gandhiji. They are making the Khilafat, what we can say, committee, and slowly it is starting Khilafat movement with non-cooperation movement. The next one, people's initiative, different people from different area, they are starting picketing or making the protest, like that many activities taken by the people, that we will see. Then the people of Mahatma, how the people, they started to give the knowingly or unknowingly, they started to give respect, and they understood Gandhiji as a big leader, and how it is coming. Then how Gandhiji started to work as a leader, or how he inspired the people. Then what is happening from 1992, after 7 years of Gandhiji's coming here in India, what is happening, or how it is working, the Satyagraha, then Gandhiji's Ahimsa, everything, how it is working. Then how it is after the non-cooperation movement, how it changing Indian freedom movement, that we will see in this part. The next one, Dandi March, as a part of, or this is the symbol of civil disobedient movement, means disobey the rules given by the government. So the tax was imposed on salt. That was everybody's food. That we can see, if you are taking salt, poor or rich or patient or healthy, like that, means unhealthy or healthy, educated or illiterate, without any difference, all of us are using salt. So Gandhiji is taken as a symbol of unity of India, salt, and starting making the salt against the British law. Then how the ladies are participating in the movement and different parts of India, like that sources are there that you can read. We will read somewhat. Then Quit India, and later then 1942 Gandhiji, under the leadership of Gandhiji, they are making that one, what we can say, Quit India movement, means saying to the British people, go away from India, we don't want any British people, we will rule ourselves, like that Gandhiji and other people, they started to say. In 1928, Simon Commission came. That time we said, like that, go back Simon, because that is the commission made by British government to look after India and the development of India, like that. Then next one, towards independence and participation. In 1940 onwards, the Muslim people, or the some people of Muslim, they are asking for special country where they having the Muslims majority, like that movement, and slowly it is becoming the partition. By 1947, the 147 August 14th Pakistan got independence, and 1947 August 15th we got independence. Then last one is nationalism in Africa, a case study of Ghana. By that our lesson will finish it. Okay, we'll continue in next video.